Good evening, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to Step Up. This evening, Mike and I will be talking about the characteristics of a coach and what it is. How do you measure a coach? What do you think, Mike?
Well, Marty, first of all, welcome back to the second edition of our podcast. And on top of all of that, today is April 13th, 2025. It is Palm Sunday. It is the first day of what you and I both consider an important week in the history of the world. And that is Holy Week, leading up to Easter next week. So had a great church service this morning. Hope everybody was able to go to church today and celebrate this week. It's a solemn week, but at the same time, it is a week that ends in the ultimate victory.
Well, He is risen are great words to hear. And that is sort of the rallying cry for Christians, across the world who came back from the dead, rose from the dead and completed His mission to die on the cross to save the sins of mankind. And that's the reason that we are here. That's the reason we serve. He is our example. And this is just the week that He is risen, and we need to preach that to everyone.
Absolutely. And Marty, you had characteristics of a coach this week, and basically what makes a good coach. What are the things that you should strive to be if you are aspiring to be a coach? If you're already a coach, what are some things you can improve on? What are some things you can look at to gauge yourself? And what are the characteristics that you need to have to be successful? And I think you and I have been around this business of coaching. Both of us have been coaches. Both of us have been coached. Both of us have worked with and in conjunction with other coaches. I had a 16-year career where I was not a coach, but I worked with coaches every single day and was around coaches from all levels all the time. And we've been able to observe, neither one of us are spring chickens, let me add that, but we've been able to observe a lot of coaches over time. And you and your research with a higher standard have put together some things about servant leadership and coaching and what coaches should look like when they are truly serving the athletes and the schools and the entities that they serve. And we're just going to talk about a few of those today and go through them. And hopefully in the end of this, somebody's going to be helped by it.
Yes, and we do have some pretty clear research about what kids see and what they need in a coach. We approach this from the angle of what behaviors in a coach motivate you to give your best effort even in the face of adversity. That was a question that we asked them. And they gave back 4 very clear responses. And we have about 3,500 kids that we got this answer to. And the first thing that we found out was the behaviors of a servant leader really match up with exactly what it is that kids want. The first thing they want is someone who treats them fairly. And when we interviewed them afterwards, they would say that you play and award players based on merit, not on favoritism. Like politics was a word they used. Or they said if you play, a donor's son or daughter, that doesn't sit right with these kids, so they want fairness. And I'm reminded of a quote by Pat Summitt when she said, "You can't treat everyone alike but you can treat them all fairly. And I think that's the thing. The second thing that they mentioned was expertise. So they, even though we may be the nicest guy in the world, we may be a great Christian role model, it boils down to, can we coach? Can we give them the information they need to become better, to empower them? So they want someone who knows what they're talking about. Uh, they also, the third thing is, they view us as a father figure. They view the female coaches as a mother figure. So we have this paternalistic image in kids' eyes, and they trust us just like they do a father. Now, when you overlay that with the fact that 1 out of every 4 homes is a fatherless home, in a single parent home, that becomes even bigger. And then the last thing they want is someone who is ethical. They keep using the words, the refrain was, keeps their promises, ethical, who doesn't cheat. So, fairness, expertise, parental figure, and ethical. That's what we're
Yeah,
saying.
Marty, I completely agree with that. And you brought up Pat Summitt, a legendary women's basketball coach at the University of Tennessee, and one of the best to ever walk the sideline of a basketball court, really in any sport. Pat Summitt was the epitome of a great coach. And you mentioned that, those 4 things that kids want to see out of a coach, and that from your research, from those kids answering those surveys, and I think that's really important for everybody to know, is this came directly from the mouths of athletes. This came directly out of a survey with athletes that you did, in all of the study you did to put this together. And it's important to note that this is not what some PhD wrote somewhere or some professor said in a classroom. This came directly from the athletes themselves as they answered these questions. What do you see? What makes you want to play for somebody? What makes you? What do you see as a really good coach? And it's important to listen to that. And I sent an article to you earlier this week from a legendary NFL coach, Tom Landry, who walked the sidelines with the Dallas Cowboys for all of those years. And it had 6 big points that he had in being a good leader, not necessarily just being a good coach, but being a good leader. And I'm going to run through those real quick, Marty, if I can. And the first of those was knowledge, which you mentioned. Got to know what you're talking about. You've got to have a knowledge of what you're doing, whatever your subject matter is. If you're a tennis coach, you have to have knowledge of the game of tennis. If you're a baseball coach, you have to have knowledge of the game of baseball. If you're a business coach, you have to have knowledge of business. The second one of those was innovation. Don't be afraid to change things. Don't be afraid to try new things. Take advantage of the things that are out there that are given to you to help you improve. Be innovative in what you're doing. Don't be afraid to do different things. The third thing was a basic philosophy. And I think this is where a lot of coaches fail sometimes, because they really don't have a basic philosophy that they rely on the entire time through. And there's lots of things that could entail your personal philosophy, but you have to have a basic philosophy that you live by everybody, a kind of a mantra that you go by, or a set of rules that you want to follow for yourself on a daily basis. I think that's important. Shared goals. Coaches have to have shared goals. No matter, again, leaders have to have shared goals. And going about how you achieve it, deciding how you're going to achieve those goals. The fifth thing is motivation. How many times have you seen a coach that maybe was getting toward the point of burned out and was just lacking some motivation, or they weren't very motivated in certain instances during a season, and maybe had an off week, maybe had a bad week, something like that. And then the last thing, and you mentioned this also, Marty, in one of the 4 things that you had, handling adversity and criticism, because you and I both know if you are a coach, you are going to have critics, and sometimes those critics are going to be very vocal, and you have to learn how to handle that. And you're also going to face on a daily basis, whether it's in practice, whether it's in games, no matter what, you're going to have to deal with adversity all the time. You're in a sport, your star player is going to get injured. Some things are going to happen. You're going to have to make changes on the fly, and you're going to have to work against adversity. You're going to have calls go against you in a game. You're going to be backed up, all the time on offense. If you're a football coach, you're going to be backed up all the time on offense and can't seem to get out of the hole. And you're going to have all of these different things coming at you, and you've got to have a plan for handling adversity. You have to do that as a leader in anything as well. You have to be able to plan and work with all of those things. And I think that goes right along with the 4 things that you brought up earlier. These philosophies or these points from Tom Landry and his great career. And I'm sure we've probably got a lot of people out there going, who is this Tom Landry guy? If you go back through the NFL history, Tom Landry had 20 consecutive seasons where he had a winning record with the Dallas Cowboys. And he was their head coach from 1960 to 1988. That's a pretty long run in the NFL. And I grew up watching Tom Landry roam the sidelines, of course, all the way into my 20s. As I got out of college, was finally when Dallas parted ways with it. And quite frankly, they've had some good seasons with a couple of coaches since then, but it's been a long time now since Dallas had the kind of success that they had under Tom Landry. But really good points that I think were brought about in that article I read this week.
He was a legendary coach who affected a lot of different lives. He also was one of the biggest leaders in the Fellowship of Christian Athletes across the country. He was an original in FCA. If you go to Kansas City, and they have on the wall of their building a very, very just beautiful wall up there, and it is Hall of Champions is what they call it, and it's sort of their Hall of Fame, and he is on that wall. And we have a guy also from Columbus who's on that wall. Larry Mize is on the Champions Wall out in Houston. In Kansas City. So it's amazing a career that he had, and the depth of his faith as a Christian was amazing, and he was revered and respected by all those guys who played for him.
Oh, absolutely. And, I've heard different players that played for him over the years talk about the man that he was and the example he set. And if you ever watched Cowboys games, you could never tell if Dallas was winning or losing because Tom Landry always looked the same on the sideline. He always had the same look on his face, and he was not very demonstrative. And many coaches out there that have been that kind of leader and have shown that kind of leadership. But I want to go back to something you said in your 4 points. And I think this is tremendously important. I think you made a point about a coach got to do what he says. He's got to keep his promises. And I think that's huge in today's world, especially. Kids, if you're coaching kids, we're going to kind of give this an athletic focus here, but really, if you've got a group of employees that you're leading, they have to know that in every situation. They have to know that you are behind them, and they have to feel like that you believe in them. Sometimes even if you don't have that confidence, they can't know that. And it's all difficult there are coaches out there that just don't practice this every day. I have a son who is currently still playing at the collegiate level, at the junior college level, and we talk about coaches all the time. And one of the big things that he said over the years is, I don't mind a coach who is hard on me and pushes me, who is trying to get me better and who believes in me and believes that we're headed in a direction. I don't mind that at all. He said, I can handle all day long being hollered at. I can handle being worked hard. I can handle being talked rough too, if that's the case, whatever the case may be, because I know that's for my good. But on the other hand, whether it's my son, your son, or anybody else's son or daughter, no athlete or no worker is going to perform the way they should for someone who is a person who tears them down and fails to build them back up after they're torn down. And unfortunately, there are people out there that do this. There are leaders out there that do this. They do a lot of tearing down and not enough building up. And I think it's important to remember that it's okay to push somebody and it's okay to be hard on somebody, but they have to know that you're behind them, that you believe in them, and that you are trying to build them into something better.
And there has never been a study done about motivating athletes that even lent one scintilla of support for the idea that belittling and pushing kids and insulting them increases motivation. Quite the opposite. And in this generation today of Gen Z athletes, there's a big aversion to this authoritarian leadership that some coaches display. I think that the evidence that we see, and I think it's absolutely dead on the money, is that a coach can push you beyond what you think your limits are. Coaches can do that. And kids will follow that lead. But if you get negative and you start to insult, if you start to belittle, if you start all this negative reinforcement with them, you lose them. It's not that the servant leader coach is not a cream puff. The servant leader coach is just like Jesus was. It's tough as humanly possible to be. And in sports, it's just a measure of your toughness over and over. And coaches know this. We have to prepare kids as servant leader coaches. We have to prepare them for tough situations. If we're easy on kids, we're setting them up to fail. But when we challenge them and when we push them toward those goals, then they always respond positively. It's a basic tenet of sports psychology that the way to motivate people, not just athletes, the way to motivate them is to help them establish realistic goals and then figure out a way to help them reach that goal. You know, simple as they call it the path goal theory, right? You find a path for kids, you get them on that path, and you stay with them while they follow it to reach their journey. And nothing motivates people more than to set a goal and accomplish that goal, because it makes them think they can do it again. So we have to challenge. We can't be easy. Servant leadership and Christians are not easy. We have to push people. We have to challenge people. We have to ask for everything they have every day. We want all you have. We want it every day. And that's the secret to being a good coach, is to push your players, demand from them, but don't belittle them. Don't trash talk them. Don't criticize them. Praise works. Yeah, when you need to correct a player and they love you and they believe in you and they trust you, you can be honest with them. and confront them, and that's part of coaching. Feedback is a big part of coaching.
Oh, absolutely. And being your delivery of that feedback is huge sometimes, and it's important. But um, you mentioned something also in your research that you found that athletes view a coach a lot of times the same way they do as a parent. That female coaches view female athletes view female coaches sort of as a mother figure. Male and female athletes, I believe, view a male coach as a father figure. And sometimes there, and I've seen it time and time again in my life, both as a coach and both as an observer of different coaches, where sometimes the coach is the father figure in that athlete's life, because they may not have anybody else. They may not have a male influence in their life that is acting in that role because their father was absent. Maybe for whatever reason that father was absent. There's hundreds of them out there that it could have happened that could have caused their father to be absent. But those guys, and I'm talking mainly with male athletes here, they're looking for a father figure, but sometimes the female athletes are too. They've never had one. They've never had somebody they could rely on, and the coach stands in that gap and fills that gap. And some coaches don't want that, but it comes with the territory, and it's imperative, I think, for coaches to learn how to do that. And sometimes you have to walk a fine line with that. You have to be careful. I've been told since I was a young coach coming right out, you can't always be their buddy. You don't want to get in a situation where you're their buddy, but you know what? You can be their friend, and you can be their leader. You can be their guide. You can be their mentor, and you can develop a friendship that is not necessarily the buddy that you go hang out with, but it's a friendship that you can carry into other aspects of life, into other than just the sport that you're involved in, or the activity that you're involved in. But you have to walk that line, but you always want to lead them in the right direction and show them the kind of example that they're going to need to move forward.
And in our society today, there is a lot of negative talk about masculinity. What a coach is, we shouldn't be afraid of being a masculine figure in their lives. We don't need coaches who are easy. We don't need coaches who are worried about what their players think of them. We need coaches who are worried about doing the right thing, and who are, you use the word mentor, who are mentors to them. I can give you a story about when I was a young guy. I lived in a little bitty town down in South Georgia, and we had a high school. But when I went into the ninth grade, that school consolidated into a big school, Bainbridge High School. And the four little communities in that county, Decatur County, went to one big high school. So when we go into school, we don't know a lot of people. And the ones we did recognize were people we played against when we were in middle school and wore different colors. And now here we are wearing new colors, new mascot, a new identity in a town that we ride to a bus on, 13 miles away. And we're expected to, be loyal on our first day of school. So there was a coach there, a guy named James Stapleton. He's gone on to be with the Lord now, a great guy. And I went out for basketball, my sophomore year. And he came out into the gym, and he had a flat basketball, no air in it. He threw it down on the ground. It didn't bounce, And he said, I want to line over here, and I want to line over there. We're going to fight for this ball. there were just maybe 100 guys who came out for basketball. And the first day, all we did was fight for a ball. He would throw it down, would hit the ground. You could dive, you could foul, you could do anything. But the guy that came up with that ball went one way and the loser went the other way. So it was like a king of the hill game with a flat basketball. And two last guys there were maybe we weren't dead last, but we were close, as I remember it. Was my best friend, And we had to fight for that ball, and it seemed like it took 20 minutes for one of us to come out in the circle with the ball, but he got it, not me. But make a story short, he trimmed down all those players based on how much you wanted it, on your effort, how much you were willing to give. Those practices were so tough, so much running. We actually had people who would walk out of practice and quit during the middle. The doors were unlocked. Go. Feel free to leave. But if you leave, you can't come back. So the 12 he had left were pretty tough guys. Okay, now, I was one of them, proud to say. Now let's roll that forward 25 years. I apply for a job as basketball coach, and I look down and see the principal of school, James Stapleton, the same guy. So we didn't have the internet back in those days. We would call each other on the phone and actually talk man to man, right? He was a manly guy. He was an all man. And we all wanted to be that way. We wanted to grow up and be like him. So he said, when you come, Marty, bring your golf clubs. We'll play. So I went. We go play golf. We're out having a good time. We never talk about the job, the basketball job, what the pay was going to be, anything. We just played, had fun, talked about old times, reminisced. It was great. And when it was over, we go back to his office. And I said, well, Coach, we hadn't talked about anything about the nature of the job. How do I stand? And here were his words to me. You got this job way back when you made that team because I know what you're made of. And I'll never forget that. And it was a great honor to coach under him, for him, those years. It's about getting the most out of kids. So what the best coaches do, how to measure a coach, is the ones who get the most effort. Because we all like to think we have some strategy that can win, that we're smarter, that they're coaching geniuses. And I got news for you. If you're a genius, you're not a coach. You're a rocket scientist. Go to work for NASA. The guys who make it coaching are guys who give it everything they got every day and don't let anything get in the way. That's the way you make it as coaches. And the coach who can get that kind of effort out of their players, those are the ones that win. It's not their brains who wants it the most, and what coach can motivate them. And it all revolves around you respect that coach enough that you're willing to lay it on the line every day. And that's the way we felt about Coach Stapleton. We gave it all we had in that practice. And a lot of it was to please him, to make him approve of us, because we loved him that much. He had that much referent influence in our lives that it mattered to us to give it all we had every day. But the coaches that drive you and use coercion and they're dictatorial, that wilts the first obstacle you come to. It all goes away. But the guys who want it and they want to stick together as a team, they love each other, and the coaches who get that kind of culture on the team, they're hard to beat. And that's the measure of a coach. The guy who you want to play for, and you want to do it, not because you're forced to do it.
Right. And that's important, I think, Marty. We use the term buy-in a lot in our world today. And coaches, you and I have heard numerous coaches say, that they want the kids to buy into what we're doing. We're trying to get them to buy into what we're doing here. And it's extremely important. It goes back to one of the points you made. It's extremely important that you give them something to buy into. And you got to make them want to buy in. If you want them to buy in, you've got to be bought in. And the buy-in is two ways. You've got to buy into them as players or employees or whatever the case may be. You've got to buy into them and let them know that you believe in them. And then they're going to be a whole lot more willing to buy into what you're doing and what you're trying to do if they know what it is you want from them. You've got to be specific with them. You've got to be on the level with them, and you've got to give them something to want to buy into. And I think that's huge in today's, especially with today's Gen Z kids, as you were talking earlier. They've got to have something to latch on to. You know, why should I be a part of this? Why should I believe what this guy's saying? Why should I buy into what he's selling? You know, if I can't trust him, if we can't come together on this, if he's going to treat me this way, you know, what's the end going to look like? What's the means we're trying to get to? The means to an end, and I think that's so important in this world today. Is if you want somebody to buy into, give them something that they want to buy into. You got to lay it out there and put it in such a way. And I was the same way my son was talking about. I was the same way. I never minded a coach pushing me. I never minded a coach being hard on me because that most of those coaches that were that way had shown me what the end game was. They had shown me what we were trying to get to, where we're trying to get to, what we want to do. And I tried to be, when I was in coaching, I tried to be that kind of coach. You know, this is why we're doing it. This is why we're working right now. This is why we're running so much right now, because in a few weeks, when we're into the season and it's the fourth quarter, whether it's basketball, football, or if it's the sixth or seventh inning, that other team that hasn't worked as hard as you is going to be tired. And you're going to have more in your tank than they do. That's why we're doing this. I loved it when coaches explain that about why we're doing this kind of conditioning, why we're doing this kind of training, why we're using this particular program in the weight room. Why are we doing, you know, kids always want to know, why are we doing this? You have to have that answer for them. And it has to be something that they can latch on to. And then when it comes to fruition, and they look back and they say, Coach, you know what? You were right. Those guys were gassed out there, and we were able to win this game because we were in better shape than they were. We were more prepared than they were. And, you know, I think that's important, that you have to give those players something that they can tangibly catch hold of and buy into. And I think that's huge for coaches.
I agree. And when we measure these kids, the trait that motivates them the most is trust. It's overwhelming. It's 36% of all respondents. Now, you just imagine we got 3,500. It may be more than that. I mentioned that figure before, but I think we've got 200 more in a sample that I didn't include. But at least 3,500 kids in 9 different states are giving us this information, and trust comes in as number one at 36%. So every of these 3,600, 36% of them rated trust as number one. 22% rated trust as number two. And 19% rated trust as number three. Now, if you go to the number one choice, it's for the other 6 traits that we measured. If you're following me so far, the top choice other than trust comes in fourth. It's, in other words, the third pick for trust is higher than the first pick for the next trait, which is empowerment. So it's overwhelming that kids want someone they trust. And where we got these 4 things from was we asked a follow-up question. Why do you trust them? What is trust to you? And that's what they gave us, those 4 things. And it's amazing how many similarities whether we were in Oklahoma or South Carolina, uh, doing these skits, they gave, it was like they knew what the other state was saying. I mean, they were so similar in the feedback. So, and it's still that way today. Trust. Now, this is the 13th year. Trust is still number one. And those four traits are still in the mix. So, kids want somebody they trust. If you want to know what motivates kids, gain their trust. And when they trust you and they trust what you're saying, they'll run into a wall for you. But it's all about trusting you and loving you. And coaches who make a difference, the ones who step up, are the ones who have that reverence, that they just command that. They're not always the sweetest guys, or gals, but they're the ones that are trustworthy. And that's what it's all about. And think about it, Mike. Any relationship that's abiding and deep is based on trust. Our marriages,
Absolutely.
based on trust. Our friendship, you and I, we trust each other. It's just, I trust you. You trust me, and that is the foundation of every good, deep, and abiding relationship's trust.
Yeah, yeah. And Marty, it's such a satisfying thing, and I know it's the same way with you because back summer before last, you and I spent a lot of time early in that summer writing together every day in my job that I currently do, and you were working then, and we ran around to a lot of territory where you had formerly coached, and I know it's satisfying for you like it is for me when I run into athletes that I knew, sometimes up to between 25 and 30 years ago, that athletes that I coached, sometimes more than that, athletes that I coached, and they recognize me and they come up to me and we talk, and I have reconnected with a lot of former kids. I call them kids. They're not kids anymore. They're grown men and women. But a lot of former athletes that I coached back at the high school level in my coaching career, my short coaching career in Alabama. And I've been able to reconnect with a lot of them. And it's so satisfying when they can remember things that you told them. They can remember things that you showed them. They can remember the influence that you had on them as way back that many years ago. And they bring things up to you. And they remind you of different things that happened. And they remind you of these different events that took place. And they remind you of things that you said to them. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I don't remember saying what I said, but boy, did they make it sound good. And it makes me feel really good that they're telling me that and that they remember it. And, it's always good as a coach to get that kind of positive reinforcement and feedback that somewhere along the way you did something that positively influenced that young man or that young woman. And I know you get it from time to time when you run into former kids that you've coached and former athletes that you've coached. And I get it from time to time. And it is, and I didn't do it. You and I both, we're the same way. We didn't do everything right. And we made our mistakes, and we made mistakes with kids, and we said things that we probably shouldn't have said to kids and in front of kids. And, nobody is perfect, and perfection is a word that, basically shouldn't exist in the vocabulary of a coach. It's something to strive for, but it's something that's not going to be reached. And it shouldn't be an expectation. Perfection shouldn't be an expectation. It should be a goal, but not an expectation. And I think that, despite the mistakes, despite the not so pretty things that happen, it is so great to know that those kids still remember you and they remember the positive influences that you had. And hopefully they carried some of those with them into their adult life.
Right. And while we're talking about coaches, notice this hat I'm wearing tonight is Serve to Lead. And this is a hat that was given to me by Tim Fanning, who is, in my view, a great servant leader and who has gone through some tremendous trials in his life. yet he's one of the winningest baseball coaches ever in the state of Alabama. I've lost track of the number of championships. It was 14 the last I counted. It's more than that now. And there's a perfect example of a guy who is respected by his players, by other coaches, and who is a guy we trust. And his words carry weight, and it's because he walks the walk, not just talk. And Tim, if you're listening out there today, I wanted to wear this hat, and in memory of you, and not in memory of you because you're still alive. I'm sorry, but to recognize you, man. And thank you for all you do. There's another guy too I'd like to mention. One of our sponsors. You probably noticed Masterwall up there. Steve Smithwick, president of Masterwall, has just written a book, and the title of it is Believer Bulldog Coach. Believer Bulldog Coach. And the subtitle is An Entrepreneur's Journey of Purpose, Perseverance, and Loving People. That's a pretty good description of a coach. So we appreciate Master Wall. And they're a sponsor for us. Great company here in town. We also have another sponsor, Ron and Kim Thomas, who are helping us with this podcast. And we just want to tell both those groups, man, we really appreciate that. And it means a lot because we feel like the greatest influence in our society today that touches more lives, influences more young people is coaches. And Billy Graham said, a coach can do more in one day than any preacher in America can do in a year. And so I'm just quoting Billy Graham. And it's true. Coaches, we're here to help you, man. We want to support you. And we want to stand beside coaches in this area. And we're so thankful for Georgia, Alabama Sports Live to give us this opportunity, and for these people who are making it possible. And I'm so thankful for you, Mike, and all you've done. And you are really the kind of man that America and the youth of America need to see and look up to. And I appreciate what you do, man. It's a great honor to be sitting here with you on Sunday nights.
Well, Marty, I appreciate that. It is, and we do appreciate Master Wall. We appreciate the Thomases for their sponsorship, and of course, we appreciate Chris Barringer, Richard Holdridge, and everybody at Georgia Alabama Sports Live for helping us get this going and get it out there. And we hope, again, we hope to grow it. We hope to keep it moving, and we're going to continue this discussion of coaches and what makes up good coaches. And as we said last week in our plans, we're going to start having guests on here. Some of those are going to be coaches. Some of those are going to be athletes. Some of those are going to be businessmen, just different walks of life. Hopefully we might get a professional athlete or two that we can speak with, or maybe a former professional athlete that we can speak with. But we want to talk about this idea of serving to lead, and being a servant leader, and what that means. And we're going to continue each week to expand on that, to build on that. And we hope to be a help in some way, even if somebody only takes one thing that we get, but they can expand on that, and it can help them be a better leader, a better husband, a better father, a better coach. That's what we're here for. And that's what we're trying to do. And we so appreciate everybody joining us. We had a lot of views of our first episode last week. We hope to continue to grow that as we go through this week, and we just appreciate you joining us. And our time's about up tonight, and we hope that you'll join us again on the next episode. And Marty, I appreciate everything you said, but it's ditto right back to you. You're a person I've looked up to for quite a few years now, and I just appreciate the opportunity of being able to do this with you and partner with you on this. And hopefully our goal is to do the right thing by everybody that we're putting this out there for, and to help foster the growth of coaches and servant leaders in this country, and in this area of the country, and really in this country as a whole.
And if you're listening to this podcast, help us. We'd appreciate it if you receive it on Facebook or any other social media. Forward it to people. We would love to multiply uh, the influence of coaches, because what we're doing is we're featuring coaches and what they do, and how we need to support and empower coaches. So feel free to forward it to all your friends on Facebook, LinkedIn, anything. We had a great response, as you said last week. That was very encouraging.
Absolutely. And so, folks, enjoy Holy Week this week. Make sure you are aware of everything that is going on this next week. Good Friday is coming up next Friday. And then, the solemn occasion that took place on Friday only means that Sunday's coming. And, that Sunday is the greatest Sunday in the history of the world. Because that's when Jesus Christ beat death and he became the Savior of the world. And it's our prayer that anybody that don't know Jesus Christ, that maybe we do something or say something in this podcast that can lead to that happening for more and more people. And again, we appreciate everybody for joining us. Happy Easter. By the next time we have another episode of the Step Up podcasts, Easter will have come, and we just hope that you will continue to join us, and we hope that you can be a part of this as we grow and get better and better each week.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, everyone.
All right,
we
Marty.
really appreciate it.
Have a great week.
You too.